And we're live. Kia ora whānau. We are here with councillor candidate Sam Walmsley, who is a candidate for what council again, Sam? Is it Manawatu?
Palmerston North City Council.
Palmerston North City Council. And you're going for just a council position there, not mayoralty or anything?
No, just the general ward. Yeah.
Awesome. That's really cool. Good on you for sticking up your hand to do that. Now, is this something that you might have done in the past? Do you have any experience with running for councils or elections of any sort?
No experience whatsoever. I was on the on my school council when I was at high school, but that's about it.
Okay. And so
Yeah.
what is your background in then, Sam?
So I've worked in a number of industries, from hospitality, retail, landscaping, early childhood care, lifeguarding, horse trekking, and now I'm an at-home handyman. But I found real passion in early childhood care and working with troubled teens. Yeah.
Nice. Bit of youth work in there. That's great.
Yeah, definitely. They're the
So
future, eh? They're the future.
absolutely. Yeah, can't argue with that. So what made you decide to run for council with no background in this sort of area?
So I just kind of feel like there's a lot of I guess there's not many voices that get heard. Like there's a certain amount of voice that gets heard from some people, but not from all people. Where like especially here in Palmerston North, areas like Highbury, Takaro, Roslyn, they're all kind of forgotten areas around our city that don't really get much attention, that need the attention. That lower socioeconomic group, which I'm a part of. I've always been in the lower socioeconomic group, and I just feel like with all the new legislations coming through, Three Waters, He Puapua, that are not getting consulted. That we the people aren't getting consulted about it, and in a free and fair democracy, that's what I thought was the done thing, you know. So yeah, I just want to try and be a voice for the voiceless and try and listen to everyone and get everyone's voices heard, not just some people that, yeah.
So you're saying there is an issue with council at the moment, or with government in general, where there's a lack of voices being heard. What is your plan of attack to sort of combat this? How do you plan on allowing, more voices to be heard and more opinions to be gathered?
Well, I guess it's doing your job as a counsellor and getting out there and talking to the people. There's a couple of us that are running. I do have someone that's running for mayor of Palmerston North, Glenn Mitchell. He's a good personal friend of mine. So we're kind of tackling this together. And yeah, we want to do things like get out there on the weekends and maybe park up in a different suburb every week and just let people know we're going to be there. Come down and talk. What are your troubles? What do you want help with? And yeah, and then try and really push that through into council. We're trying to come from the heart, the heart and the soul of the communities, and get their voices heard. Yeah.
For sure. And what would you say that your personal goals or priorities would be for council if you were selected?
So I've got three things that I'm running on. The first is a tiny homes community to help with affordable housing. So me and my wife, we live in a tiny home at the moment, a self-sufficient tiny home. So it's got solar panels, compostable toilets, the works. And so setting up and with all that, everything inclusive, I think we paid about 140 grand for the lot. And it feels fancy, like, because it's brand new, like, and it's the cheapest and happiest I've lived in all my life, you know. So
Yeah.
I'd love to try and get something like that in there with the crazy house prices that we got going on, you know. I think it could help people. Second thing I want to try and tackle is I've worded it as new tech to battle the plastic problem in Palmerston North, because we've got a lot of plastics and stuff that float around, and you know, they're talking about climate and looking after the earth, and plastic's definitely not one to do that. So I would love to introduce a hemp farm and processing plant into the Manawatu, because everything plastic can be made from hemp. You know, it's reusable, recyclable, 100% biodegradable. Can help with it can help with the climate, you know. So everyone's talking about climate change, and hemp crops can help to minimize the effects of climate change through significant removal of carbon dioxide from our atmosphere. But there's, you know, I could go on and on about hemp and the benefits to it, but as well, it's new industry, it's new business for Palmerston North as well. They've got something going on up in Ruatoia. They're making hempcrete up there for housing, which is you can't burn it. They put like jet blasters on it for hours and it doesn't catch fire. So it's got its own insulation and stuff like that. And they just make these big blocks, you know, and build houses with them. And they've got a hemp farm down in Dunedin, I'm pretty sure, as well. They've just started to get into that industry, and I want to help Palmerston North be one of the leaders for this and bringing it into our country, because hey, it's the future for our people. Hey, good old days, good old ways.
That's great. It seems like win-win-win-win-win situation. There doesn't seem to be a downfall to an idea like that. Good on you.
Yeah.
And so Sam, have you had a lot of those meet the candidate events recently?
Yes. Yeah, there is one more thing I've put on my what I'm running for, and that is I'm opposing Three Waters and any other anti-democratic legislation coming into our region. And I'm a big promoter of decentralization where possible, to bring power and voice back into our local communities, you know. But yeah, maybe even a rates freeze or cap for the next couple of years to help with the cost of living crisis. I know you've got to trim fat in other areas to try and get that down, but I think our council has a lot of wasteful spending, where we could cut that to decrease rates or just cap them for now. And really getting our potholes fixed around the city.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's so much of a local council problem as more of a nationwide bloody issue at the moment. But that's a whole different tin of spinach to open, I think.
yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
But I totally get it. And you mentioned just then something about you believe the local council currently does a lot of unnecessary spending. Is that what I heard there? What would one of these areas of unnecessary spending be at the moment in the Palmerston North Council?
So as I've just said, like, we've got a lot of potholes around that need to get sorted, but the council deemed it necessary to do a beautification of Cuba Street, which is one of our main streets in town, which is already quite a nice street. And it doesn't really need to be beautified. And also they're spending anywhere between 5 to 7 million on making the dog pound better, which only houses 42 dogs in it. And it's things like that, you know, which there's many more, but those two examples are quite high up there. I mean, the beautification of Cuba Street is going to cost them $2 million alone, you know. So that money there could be spent on potholes. You know, you don't always have to go for the gold-plated Rolls-Royce option to get things done. You know, but
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Oh, well done. Let's see, what else have I got here? What do you feel like are some of the most important issues facing the Palmerston North Council at the moment? You've mentioned Three Waters, you've mentioned the housing crisis.
Yeah, and the local RMA reforms, so Resource Management Act, is all being that was set out, I think, in 1991. And I think this is councils nationwide that this is happening to, but it's just that they're breaking the whole thing up. So it's going to be one of the biggest changes all councils have seen in a very long time. And they're making 3 separate entities to replace those, which I just see as more unnecessary, unelected bureaucracies coming through, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
But Three
understandable.
Waters, I mean, Three Waters is obviously going to be the major one of changes coming for all districts of New Zealand. Yeah.
Mm. And what would you say might be some of the challenges facing the lower socioeconomic communities there in Palmerston North?
Oh, some of the biggest challenges, I guess, it's just getting that community feel back. Like after the last 2 years of so much division and telling on your neighbor and stuff like that, everyone
Yes.
seems so separate at the moment, you know, and those lower socioeconomic communities really thrive when they're together, you know, but when they're apart, things are even harder.
Mm.
But it's things like, you know, like I say before, they're beautifying streets in town. Why don't you go out to these places and help beautify some of their area? Put more playgrounds up, put more kid-friendly activities up, or family activities to go to together. You know, there are some places doing some good work in those communities that are linked with the council. I think they're called the Manawatu Environment Committee or something. I can't remember the proper name for it. But they are setting up like food banks and food security and community gardens in these areas, but they are quite like they're held back from the council quite a lot. And they're an organisation that's been running for the last 21 years, trying really hard to work with council. And they are getting better and better, but we kind of need to push it even more, I think, with the troubling times that we are facing, you know.
Now, you made a really good point earlier. You mentioned the division that's currently going on, and there is so much division in our country at the moment. We really can't ignore it whatsoever. Do you have any sort of plan of attack for, if you're successful with council, somehow bringing some sort of unity within the council?
Yeah, well, I mean, the council is just as divided as the community, it seems, you know. So I guess, yeah, I guess I've got to try and go in with that charm and that smile, and yeah, try
Go a
and
long way.
I know, but it feels I think that's the best place we can start, is if the council's unified, we can go out unified into those communities and help them there. But it really does feel like you're stepping into the belly of the beast, you know, like going to some of these meet the candidates meetings and interacting with a lot of these people. There is a very, you know, I hate to say it, but ugly energy there, you know. Yeah, so I'm not 100% sure on how we are going to do that. But I am very optimistic, and I do have a lot of faith in humans and humanity.
Very good.
So we'll just see what we can do.
For sure. Now, you may or may not have heard recently, there have been a lot of hit articles coming out from mainstream media regarding local candidates going for elections in local council and government bodies. And there was surprisingly a list put together of something like over 170 candidates of concern. To which
Yes.
I haven't actually seen this list of candidates, but I can imagine your name may be attached to this. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, so my name is attached to this. I had my own personalized attack piece from stuff come out.
Oh, aren't you lucky?
Yeah, so the title of it is Palmerston North City Council candidate Sam Walmsley believed his COVID-like symptoms were radiation poisoning. Is the title of the article. But it also goes on to mention Glenn Mitchell, who's running for mayor as well, and another candidate for mayor, Ross Barber, who's running. So it was just us three that they've listed, and there's been a couple of other articles from that after the mayoral meet the candidates and the council meet the candidates night, where I've been mentioned in both of them. Not in a bad light, I guess, for those two ones. It was more talking about my tiny homes community, and that Glenn Mitchell pointed me out, you know, but yeah, and the one after the council candidate meeting actually painted me in quite a good light, and it said that I was quite popular with the crowd and stuff like that. But yeah, there's been a few, and we've just had another one yesterday condemning a whole group of us again about affiliations for Voices for Freedom or memberships, which we actually aren't a part of at all. We've got friends in the movement, but we're not Voices for Freedom people, you know. So yeah, and especially they asked me at my councillors meet the candidate evening, are you affiliated? And I said, short answer is I said no. I gave the staff reporter a bit of shit, but said no, and then the following day an article got brought out that said I was, and so that basically they're trying to paint me as a liar to all these people that I just spoke in front of. You know, if they had to go then read that article, they're going to be like, oh, that Sam Walmsley's a liar. And it's like, well, I'm not. It's stuff that's pulling the wool, but yeah.
So you mentioned the title of that first article, something about radiation. Are you able to elaborate on this radiation a little bit more? I'd love to hear whether there is or is not truth to this.
So there is a little bit of truth to it, but it was very much taken out of context. So they have stalked my Facebook page, and they really, really would have had to stalk to find this video. But there's a video in there where I came home feeling quite ill from the Wellington protest. I did about a 16-day stint, and then I had come home because of these aches, pains, headaches, all this kind of stuff that I had. But I wasn't coughing with a runny nose or sneezing or anything like that. And I'd heard rumours throughout the protests that they were using like LRAD on us and radiation things on us like that. But in my video, I stated it as, well, the cops have done this to us, they've done this to us, so they've more than likely done this to us too, you know, about the radiation. But it wasn't a, this is what it is. It was I don't know what else it could be, because I had a negative COVID test at the time as well. I got a COVID test and it came back negative. So it wasn't COVID, and I've never felt like that before. But I've later found out that it probably could have had something to do with a mass amount of cell phone usage in a very small area, because the medics, well, I went and saw the medics in Wellington, and they they said that they've seen a lot of this come through with people with the same symptoms. They said, yeah, it could be COVID, but you would probably have a cough and a sniffle and everything else that goes along with it. But they gave me some medication. I don't know what the medication was, but they gave me some medication for if you've had overexposure to radiation or radiation poisoning. And the following day after I left and continued to take this medication, I started to feel better. So I don't know what it is. I'm not a medical doctor. I've got no idea. I was just throwing things out there.
Now. That's good to see.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting take. How they will go right through your Facebook, Twitter, Instagram history and just pull out things that sort of suit the narrative that they're trying to portray in mainstream media, which is what I've noticed. And,
it was a 13-minute video, and they've tried to portray it on the article as like he was talking about being an anti-vaxxer and had radiation poisoning for this whole 13 minutes, but I actually only spent about a minute talking about those things. The rest of the time I was talking about how beautiful and caring and loving the people were there, and how an event like this in Wellington has actually restored my faith in humanity when I was feeling very down about humanity. But seeing what we're capable of and how loving and giving and compassionate we can be towards each other really restored that faith to me,
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Sure.
But they didn't mention any of that, so.
No. Now, Sam, do you believe that low voter turnout is going to be a big issue for this election? And if so, is there anything that we can do to sort of help this or fix this issue? What can we do?
Well, I think low voter turnout is always a problem with local. It's not a new thing, Even in our last local body elections, according to the Palmerston North City Council website, the mayor was voted in on 7,000 votes, and the total collection of votes for that year was 16,500. And it's like, we've got 90,000 people that live in Palmerston North, so having a turnout like that really sucks, like, because it's not representative of all the people, it's only some. So I think what we're doing is we don't have a lot of money. We didn't have a lot of money for this campaign. Like I said, we are not rich people by any means, but felt like we had to do this for the people. And we've got 20,000 flyers printed out, which was quite a pretty penny to get done for us, So we've got 20,000 flyers that have been printed out. We've hit probably half a Palmy by now. So we're just trying to get something in every letterbox, but and trying to get out in the community as much as we can. Like, we've got sausage sizzle this weekend at the Highbury Market on Sunday. We're trying to get the Central Market in town as well on Albert Street. And that's just a chance to talk to people. Like, we're not even going to charge. We'll say, hey, you can have a koha, but we'll put on the sausages. Just come and have a yarn, Yeah.
That's the one. Maybe twirl a few fire sticks around, Sam. For those at home who don't know, Sam is very skilled with a fire stick, and his wife. And both of you are also coming to our Zeb Jackson Live Manawatu event over Labour weekend. So I'm really looking forward to seeing some of those skills there. For anyone who's planning on coming along, you will definitely get the chance to meet Sam and his wife.
Sam the Fireman. Find me on Facebook.
Sam the Fireman. That's us. That's Sam. That's so cool. Now, just one last thing, Sam, before we finish up. I was just wondering, I mean, I think we're all pretty clear and on similar pages, but where exactly do you stand with the mandates?
Yeah, well, the mandates are undemocratic. from the get-go, you know. And that's the biggest reason why I went to Wellington, is because my wife studied for 2.5 years. She suffered with mental health for a lot of her life, really severe mental health, but finally got to a place where she could go to university, do studying for vet nursing, which took her about 3 years to accomplish, pass with flying colours, top of her class and everything, real passion for it, you know. Got working for 2 years in the industry, and then was mandated out because she didn't want to have the COVID-19 injection. And they were so cold-hearted about it. There was no, it was just so by the book. Her regional manager who came in to talk to them about it, oh, this is maybe what we might be doing, because they weren't forced to follow the mandate system because they were a vet nurse, so they weren't frontline workers or anything. But she, when the regional manager came in to talk about it, and Jess, my wife Jess, she had queries about it, about, well, what's the safety and efficacy of all this? Because they get taught about immunology with being a vet nurse, you know, so she knows the roles they have to follow. And they said that, word for word, no lie, the guy who is running the meeting said to her, well, we follow the single source of truth, so that's what we will adhere to. You know, so it's just, you see the devastation that's come from it. This cost of living crisis, the housing crisis, the food shortages, all this stuff can be laid at the feet of our government's response to COVID-19. Like, none of this would have been happening if it wasn't for their amendment bill, you know. And again, that's the thing. In a free and fair democracy, you have the freedom of choice. You have the freedom to assemble. You have the freedom of religion. That's why we love democracy. That's why we stay in this country, because there is choice to live your own life, you know. Because a lot of people argue, oh, pro-choice, it's all about pro-choice. But this hasn't been pro-choice, because if you decline, then you get punished. So that's not pro-choice, man. Right. Pro-choice is being able to choose without any consequences, you know. And I'm by no means an anti-vaxxer. I've had my MMR vaccines. I've had meningitis vaccines and flu vaccines. And so to even call me an anti-vaxxer, well, you're wrong, bro. I mean, I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I inject pharmaceutical products into me every day to keep me alive. So, you know, I just didn't want this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like so many others who have lost their jobs, lost their businesses, lost their house, lost their rentals, lost everything, lost family, lost, you know, it's just devastating what it's done.
Yeah, it really, really is. It's had ongoing effects that are going to be easily seen for generations, I believe. This divisiveness is going to take a long time to repair, to get anywhere close to back to what we were.
The kids and their schooling and the impacts that it's had on them, seeing their friends, not playing sports. And because what? Because of a cold? Like, come on. You know.
Well, Sam, thank you so much for taking the time out to have a chat with me today. I really, really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you letting me know a little bit more about your council position and, you know, your goals and plans for that, because I was not aware of, you know, for those at home who may have just joined us halfway through, this is Sam Walmsley, who is running for the Palmerston North City Council, voting within the next couple of weeks, isn't it? No.
Hey, where is it?
8th of October.
Yeah, so it starts, voting starts on the 16th, 16th of September, and runs through till the 8th of October. Yeah, so I don't care if you vote for me or don't vote for me, just vote. Like, just get out there and vote. Bring it up. We want to
I
hear
hate,
from
hate
all
to
the
say
people.
those same words over and over again, but do your own research, check out all the candidates, ask your questions, go to your Meet the Candidate events, and yeah, let's get through this. Hey, too much, Sam. You're doing an awesome job running for council. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, and you're doing an awesome job, and thank you for all your work you do, Zeb. Really
Thanks,
appreciate it.
mate. All right. Well, we'll see you at our Manawatu event over Labour weekend. Thanks, mate. We'll see you later.
Can't wait. See ya.
Oh, wicked. So, yes, that was Sam WALMSLEY from Palmerston North, who's running for council there at the moment. And he was more than happy to answer a few questions that I had of his, running for council position. I was very interested to hear his views on a few things and figure out what his priorities might be for if he is successful getting into council. Thanks, guys, for watching, and we'll catch you again another day. Pō mā rie.